Hey everyone, Jason Cox here, and welcome to this course on Premiere Pro CC Building on the Fundamentals. In this first module, we're going to take a look at exploring some new editing tools and mechanics to enhance and speed up your workflow. We're going to start off with looking at some basic speed change techniques right here. In the very first sequence called number 1, Speed Changes, I've got a few clips. Let's focus on this first one here called Spit, which really just is 3 girls running by the camera. Let's say I want to slow this down to 20% speed. Well, I'm just going to right click on the clip and scroll down to speed/duration. When that window pops up, I can punch in a very specific percentage for speed, so maybe I'll just type in 20% here. You can alternatively put in a specific duration if you want to work that way as well. You also have the option to reverse the speed if you want the clip to play backwards. You may also have the ability to maintain audio pitch. That prevents issues from, let's say, if I had a talking head, so that they don't sound like Jabba the Hutt if I slow it down or a chipmunk if I speed it up. Now, ripple edit shifting trailing clips, this one is pretty important. Basically, if I'm taking a clip and I slow it down to 20%, does that mean the clip is going to get 5 times as long? Well, that depends on this exact setting here. If I checkmark it, yes it will, and it'll push all the following clips further down the sequence. If I don't checkmark this, it'll keep the clip the exact same duration, but I'll lose the last 80% of the clip. Basically, it'll take the first 20% of the clip and slow it down to 20% speed. I'm going to go ahead and checkmark it for now. As for time interpolation, we're going to ignore this setting for now and come back to it just a little bit later in the clip. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and sure enough the clip looks 5 times as long. You'll also see 20% next to the clip name here, and when I hit play, the clip is slowed down. Exactly what we expected. Now, one thing that's unique about this clip is how smooth the slow-mo looks. There is a little bit of a cheat going on here. If I go to the media bin here in the project panel and open up BattleXC where this clip lives, this clip actually is 120 frames per second. That's a pretty high frame rate. Normally, most of us are usually probably working at 24 or 30 frames per second. A benefit to these high frame rate clips is that they create much smoother slow-mo when slowed down. We'll take a look at a more real-world scenario with the last clip in just a little bit. Now, as for the second shot here, this one's also pretty straightforward. I have another race shot here, 100% speed. And I want to slow this one down too, but the way I want to do it this time is I want to extend this clip so that it fills in the gap. Now I'm not talking about the normal extend command where I could just use my selection tool and click and drag, because that would change the out point. I want to keep the exact same in point and out point, or first frame as we see here, and last frame as we see here. So I don't want to change the content of the clip, just the speed at which it plays to fill in this whole space here. So I'm going to use a new tool here called the Rate Stretch tool. I'll click on it and this becomes really easy. All I do is I hover over the edge as though I were doing a normal extend command and click and drag and fill in that space. When I let go, the clip now reads 58.33% after the name of the clip there, and when I hit play, it is slowed down to almost half speed. Piece of cake. As we can see, this is also a smooth slow-mo clip because this was another 120 frame per second shot. Well, what about shots that aren't 120 frames per second? What do we do then? Well, first off, now that I'm done with my rate stretch tool, let me go back to my selection tool and let's take a look at this third shot, puddle. There we go. We see it as some crazy runner who dived into a giant puddle here during the race. And what I want to do is slow this down yet again. So let's do the normal workflow here. Right click and go to speed/duration. Let's say I type in 25% and hit OK. Now, here's what real slow-mo looks like most of the time for most of us. When I hit play, it looks very, 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 very choppy. Ooh, that doesn't look very good at all. Let me pause that. So is there anything that I can do to possibly smooth this slow-mo out a little bit? Well, yes, there is a magic trick that may or may not work for you, and it's called optical flow. Now what I'm going to do is right click on the clip and go one more time to speed/duration and talk about the settings that we didn't talk about before under time interpolation. So I've got frame sampling, frame blending, and optical flow. Obviously frame sampling is what it's been the whole time, which really is just holding every frame longer. If I'm slowing down to 25%, it's just showing every frame for 4 frames. There's really no special effect going on there whatsoever. There is frame blending, which has been around for a while. This is a very simplistic method to try to smooth out slow-mo. It literally ghosts frames. It blends multiple frames together at different opacity levels to try to smooth it out. I think it usually ends up looking a little weird and trippy. That's just a personal opinion. But it works really quick and easy. You select it, you hit OK, and you'll see the result right away. Now, optical flow, this is relatively new in the program and really pretty fancy. If I select optical flow, what this is going to do is Premiere is going to analyze each and every pixel of every frame and try to create whole new artificial frames in between all the original frames to hopefully smooth out the slow-mo. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK after selecting optical flow, and then hit play, and something weird happens. It doesn't look any different at all. And you're like, oh, Jason's a big liar, nothing's changed, this doesn't do anything at all. Well, optical flow is a fairly unique process in Premiere, and even if you have, let's say, high-end GPU acceleration, Premiere will usually not play this back unless the clip is rendered. That's usually pretty rare for most effects in Premiere, but this is definitely an exception to the rule. So what I do have to do is select the clip, go up to Sequence, and I'm going to choose Render Selection here. Alright, now that that's done, let's take a look at the result and see how it looks. So I'll start right from the beginning of the clip and hit play here, and wow, that definitely looks quite a bit smoother until, boom, when he hits the water, everything goes kind of chaotic. It looks like there's this weird warp in reality going on. Just to review again, it looks pretty smooth here. There's a weird little bit of doubling up on his arm here. See, the problem with optical flow is sometimes it goes a little bit off the rails. If there's a lot of fast motion, his arm whipping through the air is happening very fast, actually. And also, it can go a little bit wonky when there's sudden chaotic motion. In this case, thousands of little sprinkles of water going through the air. It can create a little bit of a weird warp in reality. Everything else looks pretty good. The zooming in, the runners in the background there, looks surprisingly good. Even when he's sailing through the air here, it looks pretty good. There's just a few issues, and you've got to determine if those issues are acceptable or not if you're trying to smooth out the slow-mo. So sometimes it'll work for you, sometimes it won't. It really depends on the shot. But anyway, that is a look at some basic speed change techniques in Premiere.